Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gayle Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. My guest today is Denise Mange. She is a certified dog trainer, pet intuitive, pet numerologist, and founder of Pet Prana. After a decade working at some of the most prestigious advertising agencies in New York City, she left the glitz and glamour of Madison Avenue to pursue a true sense of fulfillment and soul's purpose, which she found working with dogs. Upon certification through traditional dog obedience training programs, she realized there had to be more that could be done to honor the connection between pups and their humans. So looking for ways to foster these deeper connections, she studied with some of the top animal communicators and intuitives in the field and eventually developed a unique brand of mindful dog training to help pet parents forge a loving relationships with their pups through the lens of mind, body, and energetic connection. Well, I have to welcome you, Denise, and say I am a pet mom. I don't have a dog now because my dog passed away, and we can't have dogs where I am right now. So I have two cats. One I just got 4 weeks ago. But in my lifetime, I have had probably 20 different dogs and I've had 20 different cats. So I am very, very involved with all the things I'm trying to do. Are you fidgeting around? Because I'm hearing clicking.
I should be, I think I'm standing still.
Okay, I don't know. You can't move at all because
Okay.
the mics are very sensitive.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we'll pick up from there. So, Denise, I am excited about interviewing you because you're talking about my favorite subject area, which are pets. And I say I get along with pets a lot better than I get along with people. But let's ask you a very important question. How did you go from Madison Avenue to working with dogs and their humans, and what sets you apart from other dog trainers?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And I love being able to share this information, especially with other pet lovers and pet parents. And it sounds like you have your hands full with some new members in the household. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And so, I didn't take the traditional path. Unlike you, I haven't had a lot of experience having my own pet. If you'll believe it or not, growing up, I was never allowed to have traditional pets in the home. My dad was not a huge fan of animals, so we never had a dog or a cat. So growing up, I still had that huge connection with animals. So I would bring into, my room caterpillars and moths and doodle bugs. And it was kind of an interesting way to connect with animals because it really reminded me from a young age that even the smallest of animals have tons of wisdom and love to share with us. I always loved animals growing up, but then again, you follow the career path as, adults tend to do. And so I entered advertising. And in retrospect, it actually turned out to be a fantastic industry to be in preparation for this new line of work that I started doing. Because advertising is all about, observation and really tapping into people's motivations and tendencies and desires, even if they don't fully understand them themselves. So advertising really taught me how to become an observer, which is going to be, something we'll talk about more today as we talk about a mindful approach to living, connecting, and working with your pets. So after 10 years in advertising, it's a young person's game. It's crazy hours. And I started realizing that I wasn't my authentic self. I wasn't fulfilling my soul's purpose. As much as I enjoyed the people I worked with and creating new campaigns, it just wasn't filling my soul up with joy. So I decided to leave advertising, and I figured if I was going to, do anything, maybe opening a doggy daycare in New York City was the way to go, because there's definitely need for that. And it would give me the opportunity to work with animals. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, since I never had a pet growing up, I should really learn about pet behavior. So that's where I got certified in traditional dog obedience training. And I realized, forget the doggy daycare. I love working one-on-one with, pets and their humans. And as I began doing that, I realized there's got to be more to just teaching dogs to sit or stay or be comfortable in their crate. And that's where the world of energy opened back up to me, that connection with the animals. I started tapping into energy around the home and realizing the degree to which it really does affect both the pet's behavior and the human's outlook on their relationship with their pets. So that's where I started combining traditional obedience training with the energetic aspects of pet guardianship. And, there might be a lot of dog trainers out there, and there might be a lot of animal communicators, but I'm one of the few people who's really been bringing these together as a new way forward to work and train our animal companions.
So, how do your pets' behaviors provide clues to bigger energetic patterns in your life, helping you see the world in a different light?
So, the way that I love approaching dog training and living with any pet, whether it's a dog or a cat, or even a fish, a bird, or even a lizard, animal companions are some of our most intimate relationships in life, right? With other humans, a lot of times we can be guarded. We don't kind of show our true emotions because we're worried about judgment. And with animal companions, they really see us at our most vulnerable times, at our most joyous, at our most, if we're upset, if we're sad, they're there with us and we can be authentic with them. So as such, they're able to tap into and access really deep emotions and patterns for us. And so I strongly believe that animal companions are here because they too have lessons that they're learning in this lifetime. Just like us, they want to reach self-actualization and grow spiritually on their path. So what they've agreed to do with us is help illuminate different energetic patterns in our lives to help us move through them. So for example, I started working with dogs and I started observing some very standard behaviors that I got called in for, on-leash reactivity being one of the top reasons people would call me into their home. And that's whether the dog's barking on leash and lunging, or maybe they're really shy on leash and don't like going out. So I started realizing that the energy around that behavior, if I looked at the home and the pet parent, a lot of them were going through really major transitions in their life. Maybe they were going through a divorce, maybe they were between jobs, or maybe they just didn't feel really connected with their reality. And so for me, that started sparking the association that all those energetic themes have to do with matters having to do with the first chakra. So I started realizing if we could address those energetic themes in the human and in their life, that along with the traditional obedience training helps shift the behavior, not only for the pet, but for the human. So that allows us to see, wow, all right, so when my pet is being quote unquote naughty or misbehaving, maybe it's not something that I have to dominate or change or be egoic about. Maybe I can look at this as an opportunity for personal transformation.
Interesting, very interesting. I was thinking about when you were talking about the leash. This little kitty that I've just gotten is called a Savannah, and I've never had a Savannah before. And evidently, when the woman brought her to me, when I called to find out exactly when she was coming, she had just walked her on a leash to the local Starbucks. And when I went online to look at the history of a Savannah, it says very often trained to walk on a leash, which I am not going to do, but I thought that was very interesting.
That is, wow.
Yeah. So when working with our animal companions, why is it so important to look at the energy and story behind any given situation?
Well, I think a lot of us would agree that we're moving into a new energy and a new space, a new reality where we can no longer compartmentalize, right? the way that, if we think about the way that we exercise or we eat, like we don't jazzercise anymore. We do yoga because it really helps us grow our mind, our body, but also our energy, our spirit. So everything we're doing, we're taking a more mindful approach in life. And that's no different with dog training. We're at the point right now where we can't separate the traditional dog training from our energy. That's all interconnected. So when we're working with our animal companions, we want to make sure that we're giving them, the traditional dog obedience training, because that helps us create a foundation and boundaries and establish expectations and a way to communicate with our animal companions. And then we also want to address their mind. We want to give them mental stimulation. We want to use all those wonderful, feeding toys out there and all the puzzles for dogs and help them learn new things. That's going to help them have more confidence. But we also want to address the energy behind, our relationship together, because we can no longer just look at things from a traditional training standpoint, because in my experience, if you only do that, you don't completely solve whatever behavior you're looking to solve with your animal companion. There's a huge piece missing, which is addressing the energy. And I think, you would agree, and any pet parent would agree, that our energy affects our animal companion. They pick up on our energy. They know when we're happy.
There's no question. When I watch a movie and if I'm watching television, I'm watching a movie and I'm sad and I'm crying about the movie, my cat just looks at me, the older cat, because the other one hasn't gone through it yet, but he just looks at me, with the most deep soul eyes. He's a beautiful chocolate point Siamese, and he just looks at me with these deep blue eyes. But what's let's say, whether or not you're a pet parent, what are some small things that we need to do to bring more awareness into the way we approach pet guardianship?
Well, so even that is a huge shift, right? Because whether you're an animal lover or a pet parent, maybe you don't have a pet, we can make small shifts in our day to change the energy around how we view our relationship with animals. So even small things of saying pet guardianship, or calling, a pet parent or a pet guardian instead of owner, right? That changes the relationship, and it starts people seeing things in a new light. I was actually delighted today. I read in an article on the Washington Post that those traditional animal crackers, Nabisco changed the artwork so that the animals are no longer behind bars.
I thought that was fascinating, wasn't it?
Right. So those are these tiny shifts that raise the awareness of, just setting the expectation that we don't own anything. We're guardians. And, even when little kids start looking at those animal cracker cookies, they're free, they're roaming free. That's the energy that we start holding around animals. And that raises the vibrations for them and for us.
Of course, they've started using that with all of the zoos as well. You don't see caged animals anymore. They're roaming free. They're in their habitats. It's really amazing what they've done with the zoos. It's very, very interesting. But there are 4 questions that you say help call into more harmony, balance, and expansion in your life with your pet and relationships more broadly. What are those 4 questions?
Great. So I would love to share those. So these 4 questions are designed so that anytime you feel triggered, or maybe you're really delighted by your animal companion, there's 4 questions we can ask that help us go deeper and understand what's at its energetic root, so that we can process that and either release or reaffirm it and kind of move forward in a more harmonious way. And so those would be, for example, if your animal companion is barking, right? When we think of our animal companion barking, what emotions come up for us, right? And where do we feel them in our body? So this is where we really want to take that mindful approach, that observer stance, to understand when my dog is barking, what's it eliciting in me? Is it fear? Is it frustration? Is it anxiety? And if it's one of those, where do I feel it in my body? Is it in my gut? Is it in my head? Do I feel it in my heart? And so once you've kind of established that, we want to think about, all right, we've tapped into that emotion. Say it's frustration and I feel it in my gut. When we think of that frustration, where else do we experience that similar emotion? Does it elicit any memories or any past experience or broader energies in your life? And so for me, frustration, I would feel that very strongly in my gut, and it would bring up a memory when I was younger, and I wanted to create a beautiful, piece of artwork, and I saw it so clearly in my head. But when I tried to translate it onto paper, it wouldn't look the same, and I would get so frustrated, and I would, rip up the paper and throw the crayons and just be really frustrated. So then once we've identified an experience, we want to ask, what is the belief that characterizes this experience? And for me, the belief was, I will never be able to create what I want. So for me, that frustration that I felt with my animal companion could, if we go and dig deeper, it actually has to do with my own belief around my power of manifestation. So the belief was, I'm never going to be able to create anything the way I want to. So the attitude and story that I told myself, the way it would play out is, I'm not even going to try because I know I can't do it. So there I'm starting to realize, wow, that's a huge energetic trend in my life that has self-sabotage attached to it. And so I'm starting to realize, wow, all right, my dog's barking is leading me down this deep energetic rabbit hole, but it's really meaningful. It's a big pattern in my life. So once we've gotten to that point, we want to ask ourselves the fourth question. Are you ready to change the story? Because a lot of these stories and beliefs and habits kept us safe at one point, right? They served us. And sometimes we're not ready to change the story. Maybe I'm like, what? I still need to feel safe. I still want to hide. I'm not ready to shine my life and my gifts. So maybe I'm not ready to change the story. But if I truly am, then I can come up with a new narrative, which is everything I put out is going to be creative and beautiful and well received. So then we were able to start shifting our patterns a little bit. So our animal's companion barking helps us, one, identify the emotion that's coming up for healing. Two, it helps us identify where else that emotion is playing out in our life. Three, it helps us understand what's the story we've told ourselves behind this emotion. And four, it allows us to either reaffirm it if it's something that's working for us or replace it with a new narrative. And that's how we create those big shifts, both for our animal companions and for ourselves.
Boy, I'd really have to think about that because I know when my dogs were barking, it was just annoying.
Yeah,
I could imagine the neighbors getting all upset and everything else. And so I don't know if I went through any of those four things. I just know I wanted them to be quiet. I mean, I understand a dog barking, and you certainly can't have a silent animal. If there's anything that talks a lot, it's a Siamese cat. I can tell you that. In fact, when I took my little cat to the vet yesterday because she got her shot, I left. Well, it was at least a 2.5 hour process with the going and the coming and the treatment and so forth. And when I came back, my older cat, was meowing like crazy behind the door, missing this little cat that had driven her crazy for 3 weeks we've had her. And it was really interesting. So, I mean, whenever I take one cat away from the other cat, the Siamese is just very, very vocal. But let me ask you a question that I'm sure our listeners are interested in. What are the benefits of training your dog in an online group versus a one-on-one with a trainer?
Well, like we touched on a little bit before, it's really important that as we're working with our animal companions, we're also working on ourselves, right? Because as our energy changes and shifts, their energy reflects it as well in their behaviors. So the beauty of being able to work on an online community is that we're able to surround ourselves with support from like-hearted pet parents, because it's not every pet parent right now who is open to or desires to work on themselves and acknowledge that their energy plays a role in the dynamic with their pet. So we are kind of creating a new vanguard in pet guardianship and being able to work together online. We have a global community of people who support you. Because when we talk about our pets, because it's such an intimate relationship, it brings up some really sensitive moments for us and feelings and vulnerabilities. So knowing that you're held in this heart-centered community really makes all the difference so that you are able to go deeper with those 4 questions we talked about. Because as you can imagine, those 4 questions bring up patterns that stem from childhood, from a lot of wounds in our life with the opposite sex. There's a lot of different things that come up that our pets boil up for us, and you want to be in a loving, safe environment.
Wow. It's funny you talk about relationships. When I had never owned a dog before I got married, and then my husband had never owned a cat. Well, I love dogs, so that was not a problem for me, but he did not want a cat. But anyway, we resolved that because I told him I wasn't going to marry him unless he let me have a cat. But there are so many different things that go into a pet's behavior. So how does their behavior provide specific insights into the healing that it's ready to take place, including which limiting beliefs to revisit and which chakras they affect?
So again, in this work that I've been doing with the traditional dog training, working with the parents, I started realizing energetic patterns. So I was able to map out different pet behaviors with corresponding chakras. And being intimately familiar with the chakras, being a Reiki practitioner and studying so many different modalities, there's a lot of limiting beliefs that are very specific and universal to all humans that are associated with each chakra. So, for example, the first chakra has to do with feelings of safety and security or interconnectedness, being tethered, and matters around really knowing who you are as an individual. The second chakra has to do with themes around balance and the balance between masculine and feminine, and your needs versus other people's needs, and your power of sexuality. And so I've linked that second chakra and those themes with separation anxiety. So if you come to me and your dog has separation anxiety, there's already some energetic jumping off points that we can look into to look at the energetic terrain of the human. So it might be issues around limiting beliefs that have been passed down to you, that maybe your needs are not as important as everyone else's needs. Maybe there's limiting beliefs around, I'm ashamed to lead a rich and fulfilling life if others around me aren't, so I'm going to keep my lights small. So there's a lot of beautiful energetic jumping off points. And then if you overlay things like numerology, you can look at the numerology behind your pet's name and your name and identify the karmic lessons that you're here to share together. And it helps us understand where your animal's coming from. Because being able to have this collaborative way forward in pet guardianship is really all about understanding each other's motivations and needs and finding common ground so that together we can grow and expand.
Well, I've got to tell you, this is a whole learning experience in itself. So I want people to know how to get a hold of you, Denise. Where can they find you? What is your website? Where can they go? What do you have to offer them, etc.?
Sure. So I'm always reachable on social media at Denise_trainer. And my website is www.petprana.com. So that's pet and then PRANA.com. And on there, you'll find my online classes. I do a class called Healing with Chakras, where we go through the basic traditional obedience training for the 7 main dog behaviors. But then we also each week go deeper on the energy and beliefs of each chakra. So it's a great way to kind of jump into this community who wants to look at the human's energy along with traditional training for the pets. If you're in the Los Angeles area, I'm local. But like I said, I do a lot of remote sessions and online sessions. And if you log into petprana.com on the homepage, there's a little icon with the microphone. And if you click on that, it just asks if you've heard me on a podcast or interview. And there's a free gift, which is the top 7 things that animals want you to know. Because in my work of animal communication, some messages have come through over and over. So I hope people enjoy those.
That is fantastic. So if you go to her website, petprana.com, Prana.com, you will see a little microphone icon, and you click that, and you will get information about what your pet wants you to know, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I think that's great. Well, you'd have a big delight in working with my 2 little kitties. And once I get moved to a new location where they allow me to have a dog, I will be back in the dog business. So,
oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It's great. When my kids were little, I had 3 kids, 5 dogs, and 3 cats. So you can imagine.
Wow.
It was a total zoo. But it has been a delight interviewing you, Denise. I hope everybody goes to your site, petprana.com. And thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me and sharing your stories and your audience with me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.